welcome to Happiest Health Women's Day special webinar. We must talk about menstrual leave, period. This webinar is sponsored by Motherhood Hospital. More than half of women who menstruate have some pain for 1 to 2 days each month. Usually the pain is mild, but for some women, the pain is so severe that it keeps them from doing their normal activities for several days a month, says the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. In February this year, Spain implemented paid menstrual leave law. Japan introduced it in 1947. Indonesia, South Korea, Zambia, and Taiwan also have menstrual leave laws. This is an ongoing discussion in India. Bihar has menstrual leave implemented for its women workforce, while Kerala has it for students in state-run universities. Meanwhile, a few corporate companies have implemented paid menstrual leave. In this session, we will discuss the medical, legal, and corporate angles of menstrual leave. And for that, joining us are Dr. Surabhi Siddhartha. She is an obstetrician and gynecologist from Motherhood Hospital, Navi Mumbai. She has experience of over 15 years in the field. She is a member of the Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecologic Societies of India and Navi Mumbai Obstetrics and Gynecological Society. She specializes in female infertility treatment, high-risk pregnancy care, maternal fetal medicine, and menopause. Welcome to the panel, Dr. Surabhi. Next up is Ms. Anjalli Kumar. She is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Zomato. She's a Sustainability and Policy Partnership Specialist, helping companies design and implement programs for business, environmental, and social impact. She works with diverse teams internally and externally, CorpCom, CSR, supply chain, marketing, legal, and regulatory affairs, and so on, to design impactful partnerships. Welcome to the panel, Anjalli. Next, we have Ms. Abha Singh. She's an advocate practicing at the Bombay High Court. Abha Singh is a former civil servant. She's a renowned social activist who has done considerable work in the realm of women's rights, gender equality, and justice. Through her NGO Run Summer, she offers free legal assistance advocacy to helpless women, among other works. Welcome to the panel, Abha Singh. Well, I'll dive straight into the topic. We must talk about menstrual leave. And for that, my first question is to you, Dr. Surabhi. What factors affect a woman's productivity during periods?
So during period, whenever she is menstruating, there are a lot of hormones that are coming into action, like especially the prostaglandins that are there, that are working all around the uterus and the ovaries and also pelvic organs. And these bring a lot of pains that are there. So that is why during the menses, because of the pain, because of the heavy congestion in the pelvic area, then sometimes, those hormones, they also causes a lot of migraine and all. Because of this, her real lifestyle that time becomes really hampered. So that is the reason some of the women are not able to concentrate on their work or their studies or whatever it is. So that is the main reason why their productivity during those 5 days, or especially the first 3 days of the period, is really affected. So maybe like not 100 women are affected, but yeah, there are almost like 90 of the women are affected, and only like 10 or 20 of the women may not be affected because of the period pains and all. Yeah.
Right. Anjalli, what was the deciding factor for you when Zomato implemented paid menstrual leave? Also, was there an in-house research that was done to understand the concerns of employees?
Thanks for having Zomato participate in this webinar. While we didn't conduct internal research on this, we had a base at the time of about, when we introduced this, we were at about 500 women. Today we are at over 1,200. And we knew from own experiences at the time that menstruation can be a difficult time. And I think where we were coming from is that we wanted to create an inclusive, equitable workplace. And we wanted to ensure that all women working with us were able to, without any sense of shame, take leave when they needed it even for menstruation. So while we had all kinds of other leave available, a casual leave, sickness leave, medical leave, etc., we realized that as a corporate, it was our responsibility to create a sense of normalcy around taking leave on days when the pain is interfering with your ability to function. So it was, the intent really was to create normalcy around taking leave by introducing a special category of leave and removing the stigma associated with taking such leave by classifying this as you have a right to take this leave. We wanted to establish that very clearly. So we have a
Right.
period leave policy. It's part of our induction. We talk about period leave. In fact, we also have a because we update our status on our internal messaging app called Slack. We have a status update that we designed specially for period leave. So
Right.
we could have made this just an extension of medical leave, right? Or we could have
Right.
called it anything else, special leave. But we called it period leave specifically to give it due importance.
Right. To normalize period, that was the deciding factor that led your company to implement menstrual leave in the company, right? Ms. Abha Singh, several countries have paid menstrual leave implemented already. What's the legal stand in India? What really is the hurdle in giving women off during periods?
In India, somehow we don't have paid menstrual leave or even unpaid. There's no provision for it. And recently, a PIL was filed in the Supreme Court saying that it should be made a sanctioned leave. But Supreme Court rejected. The Supreme Court said, no, this is a policy matter. It should be the government that should be making a policy whether leave should be given or not. But at the same time, Supreme Court observed, observations of the Supreme Court are also very important because they show you the manner in which things have to go. So I think when Supreme Court said that this may also act as a disincentive for employers engaging female employees. So I think that is the reason, we've not had a menstrual leave, that too paid or unpaid till now, because somehow, as it is, women's participation rate in the workforce is very low. And I, as a law firm, I have employees, and when we talk among councils and law firms, we realize after Me Too also, a lot of law firms had stopped taking women. So I think maybe the government is thinking, let us see whether it would be adversely affecting their employment process. Like I was hearing Zomato, and I think they've taken a very good initiative. So it should be coming voluntarily from organizations, because the government has to see both the sides. Suppose the government sanctions like maternity leave, after that the concept of paternity leave came. So then the discrimination, of course, the constitution talks of positive discrimination. So I don't think the men folk would have a problem if the government comes with the policy of providing for menstrual leave. But till the time these issues are knocked down, I don't think government is in a very level playing zone to give menstrual leave.
Okay, we are not yet there as far as menstrual leave is concerned because of the kind of stigma that will be attached to it, or the kind of productivity issues, or how it would be incentivize employers from hiring women. That is the concern that several circles are raising, is what Ms. Abha Singh is saying. We have close to 50 participants who have joined in the webinar and watching the session via YouTube Live as well. For those who have missed, we're discussing the medical, legal, and corporate aspects of menstrual leave. Why women, whether or not women can work at their optimal level during periods, or do they need time off? Dr. Surabhi, coming back to you, my next question is, it's not just about the pain and blood flow. It's also about fatigue and extreme discomfort, which is not really quantifiable. Do women talk about this enough?
Yeah, so till now, I don't think so. Every woman talk about what pain she is going through while she's having menstruation, because till now this periods, menstruation, all these things is a stigma in our society. So coming up, opening up with your partner or with your colleague, it's not considered to be very, very normal still. But yeah, the young women, they are I've seen they talk about it, and then they they believe that okay, they are having pain, they are not able to be as productive as they are. So yes, they go in the office, talk to their HRs and whoever is around them, so that the people are also aware that she is undergoing such pains during those 4 or 5 days of a month.
Right. Due to the stigma attached, women don't really talk about the pain and discomfort as much as they should. Anjali, when you were implementing this policy, were there any challenges? I remember the letter your founder wrote to the employees saying that this is a biological reality. that we need to realize. But when you bring in that biological reality, of course, there would be challenges. What were those challenges while implementing this new policy there?
Definitely, there were challenges. The first challenge was in helping to address the sort of the hesitancy among women themselves to take leave when they needed it. And I think we've done a remarkable job in that all our senior leaders, especially those who are women, they actively take period leave. And there is, when you see your own boss taking period leave, you know that that's the first sign of to take period leave, right? It makes it acceptable. It makes it it normalizes it, and opens up and gives everyone else the confidence that they too can take what they are rightfully entitled to, right? We've provided a 10-day period leave entitlement for all female and transgender employees. So that's the first step we took. Leadership, my own boss, I myself, all my colleagues, we actively would take period leave when we required it.
Okay, but were there questions asked when you were planning this policy, when you were trying to implement this? Were there questions asked?
We did take a considered decision to go ahead with this on the grounds that this is the right thing to do. Okay. And I think Zomato is, in that sense, we're a fearless organization with fearless leadership, and with also an employee base with a strong sense of doing what is right. So, I mean, quite proud to say that this decision did not face, it faced hesitation in terms of it's only, initially perhaps it was 50% of the female base that took leave, but today I'm proud to say that more than 85% of women in our organization take period leave, and they have taken over 3,000 days of period leave last year.
All right. So hesitation is probably the first challenge as far as the implementing or using that policy is concerned, and with leadership doing that, that has been better. Abha Singh, the decision makers are often men in most organizations, for that matter, who may not really understand the discomfort and pain women face during periods. Tell us about your concerns on the same, because we do hear arguments about how women, you fight for equality first, and now you want special treatment. This is one of the arguments that come.
Absolutely, because Article 14 says equal protection of laws and equality before law. So everybody would throw that on you, that when you want equality, then you face it. But then if you see Government of India, it has given almost 2 years, 370 days of childcare leave. So which a woman can take at any stage of her life, that is till the time your child reaches 18 years. I don't think childcare leave has been provided in any corporate sector, but see, government came forward and it gave that leave. And that is what, when we were discussing this issue, I said from that 370 days, maybe 10 days or 15 days can be your period leave. There can be a provision that from that, these 10 to 15 days can be period leave. So I don't think government would have a problem in that. But the only thing is there's no policy till now. Because if you can give 2 years of childcare, then period leave is not something very big issue. But also one thing which comes to my mind is that when we, sometimes the private sector, see Zomato and all are big organizations, but smaller units where they have limited employees, and if they give leave like this, it would affect their production, it would affect them. So maybe they would require hand-holding, particularly the small organizations. So that needs to be looked into for sure, because if we see the system, how it works today in times of competition, you require efficiency and production at the same rate.
Right. Dr. Surabhi, what about women with conditions like endometriosis or PCOS? How severe is the pain? If you could explain in a way, that everybody can understand in simple terms, how severe is this pain?
So endometriosis is a condition where the lining of the uterus is deposited in different parts of the body, like maybe around the uterus, around the ovaries and all. So during the periods, there is increased congestion or increased blood flow in all these areas. So during menses, pain is really severe. Like she really like tosses in the pain, and then that is very excruciating. And and that is the time when she really needs a lot of painkillers, a lot of sometimes we have the pain becomes so severe then that we have to do certain laparoscopic surgeries also to remove these endometriotic spots. So especially the endometriotic in endometriosis, the pain is really bad. PCOS, yes, it is okay. The pain may not be that much and that bad, but yeah, it is because the menses are really irregular in that. So the pain is on and off. But in endometriosis, yes, it is really like in a scale of 10, I would say it would be 9, that bad.
Now, could you repeat that, Dr. Surabhi?
On a
On a
scale
scale of
of,
10,
it would be 9, and I would say.
and some even, compare it with heart attack. That's
No,
severe.
not that severe. But yeah, it is very severe. She's not able to be that productive if she's having an endometriosis.
You cannot
Like they
be
have to
productive.
be on injections like during those 2 to 3 days. So that is really bad. Sometimes they are admitted also with the pains and on normal period pains.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anjali, any new policy implemented in any organization for that matter may require some changes to accommodate the new policy. Was there such an instance at Zomato? Now, you did say that the leadership started taking leaves in the beginning to remove that hesitation part of it. But the productivity factor that comes into place when women take these many leaves, that's 10 days in a year. Say a woman takes all those 10 days, that is 10 days less compared to her male counterpart. How did you accommodate this?
You know, as an organization, Zomato doesn't believe in actually. You should know this in advance that in Zomato all leaves are pre-approved, which means you do not need to ask a manager for leave. Leave is your right. So I will actually have no say on whether my subordinates get leave or not. They are entitled to a certain amount of leave. So we operate on a culture of trust. This also extends to the fact that we trust you to get your work done regardless of, regardless of how many leaves you take. And we trust you that you will seek help from your colleagues should you need support in completing the task. So it's a culture that has enabled the policy and the usage of the policy, I would say. We do operate very strongly on a culture of trust. That perhaps points to how we were able to make this work. But we did also, run a little bit of sensitization for around generating awareness of what period leave is and why we are taking the step in terms of at least educating, because it's true that not everyone grows up in a home where they are exposed to a woman who has suffered from who suffers from period leave. Most women will know other women who suffer from period leave. You would have encountered this reality among your relatives, your friends, the people who work in your home, but it's not necessarily true for all men. So it was important for us to run some amount of education at the time of introducing it, and we run this education and awareness around all the leaves that we provide every year.
All right, Anjali. So trusting your employees to use the leaves correctly, it is their right, trusting them to do that in the right way. Abha Singh, one concern about menstrual leave that you briefly pointed out in your earlier answer is about whether it would stigmatize women further, whether it would disincentivize employers from hiring women. This is a concern that the Supreme Court had also raised. Um, how do you work around that then? Because you did talk about the smaller organizations. So once the menstrual leave is implemented, there is this fear of employers not hiring women at all.
Absolutely, because you may say, like in a big organization, somebody else will step in for you, or as your previous speaker was saying, that they will complete the task. There is trust. But I would say, as a lawyer, you have a case in which you have to appear, you have to argue, you're a litigating counsel, and that day your lawyer doesn't come and say, no, I need period leave. How do you go about that? So these things have to be sorted in advance. That then the issue will come that your periods are absolutely on point, on date, where you can tell your employer that this is the date I will be on leave. So if they're unpredictable, that will create a chaos, because if it's a small organization and you don't turn up, so that, plus I feel that right to privacy, it invades privacy of a person who's undergoing leave, because okay, we are very lucky in India that you have abortion laws, but where in US, where advanced countries, where now abortion issues are coming, they're criminalizing it. So then everyone who gets to know, or you don't want to have a child, or whatever is your personal things you don't want public to know. So then if you have to give your monthly cycle, like if you have these trackers and it will be tracked, right, I think the privacy issue would be a major issue. And a lot of women would not like to come and tell in the office that what is their plan, what they are planning. And suppose they are on medication, they don't want to have children or whatever. I said there's so many things you don't want to make it public. So I think these things will have to be taken into consideration before any policy is made by the government.
Right, the privacy concerns. I'll get into a little more detail on that point in my next question, Abha. But before that, going to Dr. Surabhi, how helpful are measures like a heating pad or hot shower in dealing with the pain? In addition to rest, what can a woman do to ease the pain?
In order to ease the pain, obviously she can have good hot showers and all that really relieves you of the pain. Heating pads are also good. She can also use certain gels that are there on the back massages and all that can be done. Other than that, yeah, a bit of exercises, pelvic floor exercises, especially that really, even if she's having those period pains, that also, if you're doing a good stretching exercises, that relieves you of those period pains. And like obviously then painkillers are there which can be taken if the pain is really severe. But yes, heating pads and hot showers does help you in preventing the pains that are there during the period.
And what kind of support system would you recommend a woman would expect at that time? Anything that you would want to tell the viewers?
Support system as in like partner support?
Yes. Family,
yeah, okay.
partner,
so
employers.
Family, see, whoever is there around her, yeah, she needs the support. If she's having pain, she's having pain. She's not like faking it, right? So then that is the time when, yeah, she needs like a rest. Then obviously the household has to be managed by a partner. Or if mother is around, she needs to take care of the food and all. If kids are around, then the partner needs to take care of the kids. Then work is there, then the colleague needs to see that if she's not there, her work is taken proper care. Then obviously medications and all if required, then she needs it. The medicines has to be with her. So, but then the thing we sorted once she's having pain and all. Yeah.
All right. If a woman says she is in pain, she is in pain. Take her word for that. Anjali, as far as this policy is concerned in the company, in Zomato, what has been the outcome of this in terms of productivity, employee retention, employee comfort, etc.?
So it's hard to correlate to say that this policy has had an impact on those metrics. See, all I can say is that it has, we do pride ourselves in Zomato on a culture where, which is where there is no stigma in discussing what needs to be discussed and discussing what is important. So it is definitely, it is reinforced the culture that we have built at Zomato of being fearless, of being courageous, and of being open with one another. And I think, ideally, having period leave does not necessarily help you attract more women. Having period leave helps the women who are in your organization feel comfortable to take time off when they need to on account of their periods. right? And without fearing the loss of other kinds of annual leave, which is, technically, a casual leave or times when they would like to otherwise take time off from work. So it's about creating a culture of inclusion, which I think it has contributed to immensely. Uh, and we're happy that we, really initiated this early and sort of set ourselves up as a role model for, especially for the rest of the startup sector, because working in startups is hectic. We pride ourselves on a culture of getting things done. And, but it is leave like this which reinforces the fact that you should not make sacrifices with respect to your health. You should focus on your health. So if I really think of the larger impact of period leave, the larger impact is telling the world and telling women in particular that it's really important to focus on your health, because there is no merit in coming to work and sacrificing your health or sacrificing the way you feel. When you are at work, you should be 100% able to work productively.
All right. Having a menstrual leave does not necessarily mean that you can attract more female employees. It's not about quantifying the output, but the quality of work, and ensuring that people don't force themselves to come to work when they cannot really be productive. That's what Anjalli says as far as this policy implementation is concerned. Abha Singh, this is a point that you mentioned in your previous answer about the privacy concern here. Now, one challenge that you pointed out was in smaller organizations where the employer cannot afford to give that leave, or if there are just, say, 2 women and 1 man and both of them go on leave, and then what do you do? So the challenges as far as the employees are concerned, or the strength of employees are concerned. Also about the privacy concern that you mentioned, what if women are asked to prove when they're menstruating? Now, it need not necessarily be that everybody gets their period on the same day every month. It could vary.
Exactly. These would be procedural issues which will have to be sorted out, that how do you prove that, yes, it's my cycle, or if you have PCOS, they may not be regular, they may not come for months. So definitely these, I think they would require a doctor's certificate. But I do agree that period leave is required, but because it makes a female employee comfortable in the office, like a level playing field, that if I'm in discomfort, how do I come and discharge my duties? I mean, it just threw me back to my, as a young girl, I used to have miserable pain. And I remember my mother had to get me some medicine, and only after that I could go for my college, or, so I do agree that it is a tough situation. I mean, if you say, no, you are a right to equality and equal protection of laws, if you are ready to have the same salary, then you have to put in the same kind of work. So giving a menstrual leave is a very welcome step. I would say it really cherishes womanhood, like what it says, yeah, if you have it's a biological process, and why should you suffer for that? So privacy concerns, it would be, I think, a medical certificate which would be required. Organizations would insist on that. But nonetheless, in spite of all this, I feel the parliament should, the Women and Child Ministry, Smriti Irani, if she's listening to it, or you send this link to her, the minister needs to go through it, because Supreme Court did not say no. Supreme Court did not say that, no, it's not required. It said it's a policy matter. The government should look into it. And this angle that women should not suffer, that they are going to get extra leave, and I don't agree with that version of the Supreme Court, because already women have in the government 2 years of childcare leave. So when the government is so open, we have the welfare measure, the constitution talks of a welfare state. So I don't think it would adversely affect women. But yes, organizations which have less women, they definitely may on their own decide not to engage women. So that part has to be looked into.
All right. Thanks, Abha Singh. Before we open the floor for question and answers from the other participants, the attendees of the webinar, I'd like to take closing remarks from all the three of you. Dr. Surabhi, your closing remarks as far as menstrual leave policy is concerned, period pain.
Regarding period pain, I would say that yes, it should be an optional. If the female is having menstrual pain, she should be given leave. But yeah, mandatory, I would say, as per the company's requirement it should be there. But yes, it should be given an option, especially in the case, in severe cases. She should be granted leave with a medical certificate indeed. Yes.
Right. Anjali?
My closing remark is that I think we are all in positions to build companies and organizations to which we ultimately would like to send our daughters, right? So I think that we have to build accordingly. And I would, for one, want a workplace where my daughter, should she experience period pain, and she, unfortunately already does, it feels comfortable to step out of work and just not have any shame or hesitation associated with it. So I think we should all work towards building that world. And for a minute, I'd like the audience to think about, what if men got periods? Would we be even having this debate, right? So let's just, let's just think through, if if men were to get periods, would we not grant this leave as a right?
All right. Ms. Abha Singh, your closing remarks.
I was just reading a few articles and I realized that Japan and all have provided for these this kind of leave, but it is unpaid leave. So since you don't get salary for that, many women do not take. So the issue would be whether you are going to make it paid leave or not, because if it is unpaid, women are not going to take, because everybody is not so enriched and empowered that they can forego the salary. So whether it's going to be paid, that is one issue which is going to come. And secondary, how many days? Maybe 10 days, 8 days, and then the quantum would be that how severe it is. Maximum, the science says that it's 20 to 30% women only face this kind of stress. So these policies have to be worked onto it. But yes, if a woman wants to take, she must be given it, because if you talk of a level playing field, today if we say we are 130 years behind men in economic equality, if India is on the gender gap report, out of 146 countries, if we are ranking 135, means we don't have a level playing field. And if menstruation is creating a problem for women in discharging their duties, they have a right to get this leave.
All right. Thank you so much, panelists, for giving in your views as far as this topic is concerned. We have a few questions coming in from the attendees. Quickly summarizing what we discussed so far, for those of you who may have missed in the beginning, menstrual leave. We must talk about menstrual leave period. That was the session about, and the panelists agree that there is the pain and discomfort that women go through during their periods. It might not be all 100% of women, but there are women who have severe pain where it affects the productivity of women at work, and menstrual leave is something that would give them that space to take the time off, because what is the point if you're coming to work and not being productive? You'd rather take rest and come back refreshed and fully productive. So one of the questions that we have here is from one of the attendees. I'm pursuing a research on the same topic, and I'm almost discussing all the same things, except for the one question that how do you deal with the idea that this initiative might lead to bracketing of jobs? This question is from Katyani Gupta. She has asked the question of how do you deal with this initiative, which might lead to bracketing of the jobs. I think this person's talking about the discrimination that we touched upon. Abha, do you want to take that question?
Absolutely. The question, the person who's asking, the fear is there, they may get bracketed because all these sensitive jobs, as I said, a litigating lawyer. If it's a litigating firm and you have to be physically present in the court, so these firms would not go for female lawyers, because they would say half of them are not going to turn up. So that would definitely happen. That is why in India, we don't have it. Spain is the only European country which has come with period leave. Why these advanced countries where the gender gap is low, where they have a good high quality of life, why they've not provided for menstrual leave? So we have to look into that. I'm sure in India, if this happens, it will definitely lead to certain jobs which would be bracketed, that only women will come here, or sensitive jobs, women will not be taken for employment. Again, in the beginning, I said Me Too movement, because of that, a lot of women lost their jobs, or men are scared of giving them jobs. jobs. So this also would, in the beginning, at least scare the male employers or companies not to give them jobs.
All right. Next question is from another attendee asking, considering the success of trials of the 4-day work week in other countries, could period leave actually result in women achieving the same amount of work in a less amount of time? Anjalli, do you want to take that question?
I'm happy to. I think, we have to distinguish between types of work. There's sort of physical work, where there's only a certain amount of work that is possible in a day. And then, yes, I would agree with Abha actually that it's hard to make up for a day's work lost, right? And then it has to be officially given as leave. So for instance, we have a fleet of, delivery partners, right? We have over 350,000 delivery partners. Unfortunately, very few are women, but proud to say that we have over more than 2,000 women who are undertaking deliveries, and we give them period leave. We give them 2 days of average pay in a month, which means that because they are entitled to the average earnings of their previous week, right? And that is necessary, and there is actually no way to make up for, you can say, the deliveries that they did not do that day, right? So that is on the physical work side, and it's a decision that a company takes to make it possible for more women to participate and to send the message that we value. And at Zomato, we definitely value women's participation across our value chain, even in the physical jobs. In the knowledge work, I would argue that there are more than enough ways to make up for a day too lost, because knowledge work is not as much time dependent as it is dependent on productivity, which is also a function of how much energy you're able to give it at that point in time. And we've all experienced this in our jobs. There'll be days when so much gets done, and then there'll be days when you're slogging and nothing seems to move, right? So I think that when it comes to knowledge work, it is quite easy, and I can well imagine that a 4-day week will actually perhaps improve productivity, because you would be fully rested. You would have done all that you wanted to do with your children. You would have run all the errands for your home. You would have had much more time to do all of that. And perhaps the 4 days that you are at work, you can give completely to work. So I personally believe that a better balance, and if that's what a 4-day week represents, would actually increase productivity, and that's what some studies are finding.
All right. Thanks, Anjalli. Next question comes from one of the attendees, Anirudh. He asks if work from home can be considered, during menstruation instead of a leave, so that their productivity is not affected. Dr. Surabhi, if you can take that question, during that period, pain and discomfort, is work from home also possible instead of a leave?
If the pain is really severe, obviously she won't be able to sit and do the work, concentrate on the work as a whole, whether it be work from home or traveling. But yeah, especially in metro cities, when the traveling is really pain, like traveling for work for almost 2 hours, in that pain again becomes a problem. So yeah, if there is no option, work from home can be given one option. But yes, because she is in pain, that cannot be like, if it is really severe, she cannot work from home also, because she won't be able to concentrate on the work.
All right. Any other attendees, if you have questions, request you to please put it in the chat box so our panelists can take those questions. Meanwhile, there were a few comments that I've received on social media as well when we were talking about how we're going to discuss about menstrual leave. And the fact was, of course, question was about equality and how if women want to be equal, they need to come to work and get put in those many hours of work. I'd want to understand from each of you, the men around or the decision makers for that matter, what level of awareness is there at this point, or is there something that can be done? For example, Anjali, that letter that your founder had written did have a paragraph to the male employees as well, to the male colleagues as well, saying that, period pain, let's make it less uncomfortable, let's make it not so uneasy, let's talk more about it. What more needs to be done as far as that is concerned? Because it's not just women who are taking decisions, or women who are making these policies. Dr. Surabhi?
So when you're talking about period pain and the period and the leaves that is around it, and decisions, yeah, both men and women are taking it. So it is to be taken into consideration that because of such pains and all, they are not able to be that productive in their work. Let us not keep just discussing. People are not yet aware that to empathize that what pain she is undergoing during those period times. So it is always better to sensitize the other male of the society, and also the partner, whoever is there around, so that they are able to understand that the pain and the back pain, lower abdomen pain, headaches, or whatever she is having during the periods, yes, it does affect her productivity. Then again, Abha Singh, when she told, yeah, the productivity of the company varies, what sort of company you are. Like, yeah, if I'm a doctor, I have to do a surgery, I have to do a surgery, whether it be period pain or not. So if I have to attend a case, I have to attend a case. We cannot go on a leave on that day, right? So as for her, as she told, that if somebody has to attend a law case, she has to attend it. So these are the things. But yeah, in general, like if somebody is having the pain, the people around should be sensitized that, okay, that is the time when she should be given a bit of rest, medicines, care that is required during that time.
All right. So Abha Singh?
Yeah, I would say even if you can't give leave for that particular day, at least if she's come to office, she can be left early. There is sympathy, care. Some of her colleagues can say, okay, we will do your work, So I think that atmosphere needs to be created. That hostility should go, and a woman, if she's having menstrual cramps or something, then the sensitization is the first thing which should happen. And I think that is what is happening when people like you and I are talking about it, and the courts are being besieged of that matter. So I think that is what is important. Or a company like Zomato comes forward and gives that kind of leave and starts a debate, yes, that there are good practices, and you accept that a woman is discomforted during periods. So I think that is whatever steps we walked is in the right direction, and eventually the good issues would come out of it. And like I was just thinking, my daughter is a cop. She's in the Indian Police Service. So if she's in a right control, and if she's working, and she has got period problems and menstrual cramps, then what is the solution? She can't leave the work. She has to be at the ground level. So definitely, if it is knowledge work or if it is research work, you can get leave. But if you are on the field, then women will have to bear and work on.
Right, Abha Singh. Anjali, your closing remarks, why we must talk about a menstrual leave?
We must talk about menstrual leave because it's a major topic within the overall subject of women's health, which does not get enough attention at all. So I don't think women's pain is well understood. I think it's highly under researched, and menstrual leave is just, I would say, the beginning of beginning to understand women's bodies and their needs and their limitations as well. And if we truly want to see more women in the workforce, more women in public life, more women leave their homes and contribute to society in the way that these wonderful women are doing, I think that first, building up our fundamental understanding of women's bodies and respecting the way their bodies function and accommodating their bodily functions through policies such as menstrual leave are actually absolutely critical. I mean, think for a second that there's a labor shortage, and think for a second that you only have 100 people in India and you have to make use of every one of those 100 people, right? And then, so what would you do? Would you dismiss a woman because she wants to take menstrual leave? No, you would actually, we just have to, for 1 minute, think we are in a position of scarcity of knowledge workers, to realize that it's really actually very important to make these accommodations that make it possible for more to participate.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Surabhi Siddhartha, Ms. Anjalli Kumar, and Ms. Abha Singh for sharing your perspective. So just quickly summarizing why we must talk about menstrual leave is because it's the beginning of understanding women in the society. Of course, there would be concerns, there would be challenges if you're implementing a leave, but that should not stop one from recognizing that there are concerns as far as periods are concerned. Period pain is a problem, period discomfort is a problem. That is what the panelists have in unison told us today from different perspectives, from medical, from a legal, and from a corporate perspective. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Motherhood Hospital, for sponsoring this webinar on why we must talk about menstrual leave, period. Thank you all the attendees for joining in and for your questions as well. Hope to collaborate with you all in the future again. Thank you so much, Ms. Anjalli, Ms. Abha, and Dr. Surabhi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.